Hi everybody, welcome back to Travel with Kit. As I promised in my previous video, I'm going to show you how I edited this picture of the mosque. If you didn't see the previous video and you'd like to, I'm going to just stick the link to that video in the description of this video, so please feel free to go and check it out. So the majority of this video is going to be just a screen recording of Lightroom. It's about 15 minutes and it will show you how I went from 25 exposures to a single image of the mosque. So I really hope you enjoy. I hope you learn something, and yeah, if you go out and practice using this technique as a result of this video, I'd really love to see the results. So let's get started.
So as you can see here, I have all of my exposures, and whilst I was shooting, I used HDR bracketing on my camera. So I have it. I flagged the images that we're going to use today. So you can see we have 1, 2, 3 images of this frame. 1, 2, 3 images of this frame. The same. 5 times. So the first step that I'm going to take for editing this is to, first of all, I'm going to select the first 3 exposures by pressing shifting and clicking. I'm going to go up here to photo, and I'm going to go edit photo merge HDR. This will bring up a little window here, and what this is doing is well, as the name suggests, it's creating a HDR out of the 3 images that we selected. Now I know what you're thinking, HDR photography is horrible. And I agree with you. I think it can be really unpleasant to the eye when it's overdone. However, shooting like this really helps to capture the full dynamic range, and you don't have to edit it to look like an over processed piece of shit. Excuse my French. You can do it very subtly, but having that amount of data in the file opens up so many possibilities. So it's a technique that I've recently been experimenting with, but I think it's really effective. So you can see here on my settings, I've got auto align turned on, which just means that if the camera moved at all between the exposures, it will align the images together. And I have auto tone deselected. So auto tone basically adjusts your basic settings in Lightroom. It boosts the shadows, it reduces the highlights, this kind of stuff. So you can auto tone if you like, but since we're going to so much effort, to create HDRs out of 5 bracketed exposures and then stitch them as a panoramic, why not just why not go 100% and take full control? So this is almost finished, and as you can see, it looks like a normal exposure. Now you can click auto tone here, and it will show you, it boosts the highlights, and it's starting to get that HDR look. But not quite, it's still quite subtle. Anyway, I'm going to deselect that and click down here on merge. So that's now going to merge it for me. And I'm going to repeat the same step on all of these images, and then I'm going to show you the rest of the process. So now all 5 HDR sections of our panoramic image have been successfully merged. We're going to select them all again by pressing shift and click. Coming up here to photo again, photo merge, panorama. Now then, this again will bring up a window which will create a preview for us to see what it's going to look like. We have three options here: spherical, cylindrical, perspective, and I tend to just choose the one that looks best, to be honest. So once the preview's been built, we can just flick through here and see which one is best. Um, Very rarely does perspective look best, in my opinion, and I typically will choose spherical or cylindrical. I think in this case we're going to go cylindrical. So you can see the white areas here, which is areas that the panoramic has missed, and you can see unfortunately we've missed the bottom of both of the minarets, but that's okay. I'm thinking of a crop, probably from here around the image like so. Anyway, I'm going to click merge and let Lightroom do its stuff, and then we're going to edit the picture using Lightroom and Photoshop. So here we have the file, and I'm just going to do the crop. So I'm going to crop it as a 4:6, which is actually the way I normally shoot. And you might be thinking I'm getting rid of a lot of the image, but because we've shot it as so many exposures, we can be very heavy-handed with the crop and still maintain a lot of those details. Sorry, this didn't load properly, but you can see we still have a lot of details. We have some noise, but that's okay. So I'm going to start by just doing some basic exposure adjustments. I'm going to increase the shadows, pull down the highlights, and I think it's slightly underexposed, so I'm just going to bring up the exposure marginally. And then by pressing Alt on the keyboard whilst doing this, change the shadows. I'm actually holding the microphone with one hand, so this is a little bit tricky. Let me just rest it on my chair. So by pressing Alt and moving these sliders, we can see where it's impacting. So that shows where all the blacks will be really black. I want to just bring it to around just about here, I think. And that's starting to look really nice. We have so much information here, so much detail. Now I want to really show off, the oranges in the sky against the blue lights on the mosque. So I'm going to come down here and just play around with the hues and the saturations in these red tones. You can see that's obviously too much, but we can just boost it a little bit. Let's have a look at the hues. If we can play with these a little bit to really get that nice contrast between the blues and the cold tones and the warm tones. The luminance again, we can go crazy, which we don't want to. But if we bring the luminance down slightly, how about that? How does that look? The one thing I'm not too keen on is these bright green lights here. So I'm going to go into the greens and just pull down the exposure, the saturation and greens. I mean, we have greens in these trees, but it doesn't really detract from the image. But these green lights are a little bit too green, they're a bit distracting, so I'm going to take them off completely. I'm going to remove all the sharpening because we are going to do that in Photoshop later. And that's all I'm going to do at this stage. I'm going to right click, editing, and open it in Photoshop. I will see you in a minute in Photoshop. Here we have the image, and we're going to go into Filter, NIK Collection, and Color Effects Pro. the NIK Collection software is actually a free plugin for Photoshop. If you just Google NIK Collection, you can download it for free. It's actually it was a a plugin that was charged for, but it was bought by Google and made open to anybody. So I suggest you go and download it if you don't already have it. It's a fantastic software, especially for these kind of images. So we have contrast color range that comes up first, and I don't want to play with the brightness right now because I think the exposure is just about perfect. But I'm going to increase the contrast a little bit, and at the same time just compensate with the shadows so that it's not too dark in some of those areas. You can see here color contrast, which can quickly become too much, as you can see. But I think we can add a little bit of contrast between the colors, maybe to around here. And we're going to get to add filter, and let's go brilliance / warmth. And I do feel like it's a bit too heavy. It's a bit too blue, so we can bring this slider over slightly to warm the image. This will well, as you can see, it brings up more of the oranges, but I think it looks really nice because we have this really prominent blue colour from the lights on the mosque, and I think we can even go, what's that, 70, almost 80%. Let's try and get to 80, and you can see it even though it's quite heavy-handed, I suppose, it doesn't look too bad, I don't think. Now saturation, again, you can quickly have something that is not particularly pleasant to look at. So I think just a little bit of saturation, maybe +5. And again, this can make some crazy colours. So I'm just going to increase this slightly, and this is kind of a trial and error process just to see what looks good. But I do like the contrast, the complement between the oranges and the blues. So I'm quite happy with that. Well, let's just have a look at the pro contrast and try and make this pop. Try and make this image pop a little bit. So where can we go to with this? Again, we don't want to go too much, but I think the dynamic contrast is really nice. But we want to just keep it really low in terms of how much we're actually doing. Now, again, with the shadows, let's just pull them up slightly. And honestly, I'm quite happy with that. I think it looks quite nice. So I'm going to just go OK and let Photoshop do its thing, adding the images into here. Now what I'm going to do is just, a lot of people won't be very happy to see me do this, but I'm going to just flatten these images, because I'm not going to go back and change anything, so at the moment, and if I do, well, we will cross that bridge when I come to it, or if I come to it. But for now, I'm going to, once this has finished saving, I'm going to highlight both the layers over here on the right hand side by pressing Control and clicking on them both. And then I'm going to press Control and E, and this will basically just combine all the changes that I've made so far so that we can proceed. A lot of people won't do this because it stops you from being able to go back in and change what you've already changed. if that makes sense. Um, but I live life on the edge. um, so you can see that filter that we added from NIK has really changed the feel. It's made it a lot more warm, and it's actually truer to how it felt being there. You know, we had a really bright orange sky. So like I said, control and click. Oh, not like that. Control and click, and then control and E, and that will just flatten those layers. I'm going to finally just duplicate the layer. I'm going to come up here to filter, to other, and to high pass. Now this is my favorite way of sharpening images. You can see here, or maybe you can't on a small screen, it shows the areas that it's going to sharpen, and you can basically change the radius here to see which areas are going to be affected. And I think about 5 is going to probably be perfect for this image. We're going to click OK, and then we're going to change the I don't know what this is called, the blending mode for the layer to overlay. Okay, so it might not be immediately obvious, but if we get right up in this image, you'll be able to see this is before the high pass filter, and this is after. You can see the difference. I mean, it's just a great way to sharpen. And that's it. I'm going to call that a day. I'm going to save this and export it.
Thank you very much for watching. That's all for today. I should just let you know that I actually went back into the file between recording what you've just watched and the image that you've seen, and I just tweaked the saturation a little bit in Lightroom. I just wanted to make the oranges and the blues kind of a bit more vibrant, a bit more saturated. But you know, that's a fairly simple process, and I think it really highlights that it's important to have a rest between taking a picture and sharing it, publishing it, whatever. You know, very often when you come back to revisit the image after a sleep or after a couple of days, you're essentially looking at it with fresh eyes, and sometimes you want to make a few more changes. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed the video. Hope you've learned something. Hopefully it was interesting, and I'd love to have you back. If you have any questions, leave them below. I'll definitely get back to you. Please like and subscribe. It really means a lot. And yeah, have a great evening. I'm going to finish this and then go to bed.